Good afternoon and welcome back to another edition of Checking the Score. I'm Adam. He's Devin. This is Checking the Score, Red Zone Sports.
Very special Halloween episode.
Spooky.
Which is to say that it's Halloween right now and you're watching this, so it's therefore a Halloween episode. Unless you're not watching this, in which case, how are you hearing what I'm saying right now?
Wow.
Unless you're a ghost. There we go. We've come full circle with Halloween.
Okay. You really, you did a good job on that.
Thank you. I sometimes don't know what the next words out of my mouth are going to be when I start talking, and that's really good for live television, which is my entire career. So,
all right,
it's a good scary time.
As long as you're prepared.
Yeah, I'm not.
Let's get into it. You know, I want to kind of start on the ice.
Okay.
UND hockey has been outstanding.
Yeah.
You know, I want to call a split it's still a split. I know Coach Barry would like to get more from that, but to split with Boston College, you're moving back up in the ranks.
Boston University.
I'm sorry, Boston
College
University. Two very good teams.
Yeah, they're both.
Boston University.
They're a different breed up there, man, with hockey. They're the Boston schools
have
put on a show lately.
Well, and you can say the same thing about the Odas, both
exactly.
Minnesota and North Dakota.
Yeah,
is South Dakota good at hockey?
Augustana beat UND in an exhibition game.
I thought Augustana's Illinois.
No, Augustana's in South Dakota.
I'm thinking of the wrong Augustana all along.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
They're from South Dakota.
Okay. Because there's a Augustana in Rock Island, Illinois.
Oh yeah, no, they play in Midco Arena down in South Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see why I was so upset that UND lost?
Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Because I was like, that school's what? I visited there.
Well, hey, now we're learning a lot on the Red Zone today. But yeah, no, UND, and you mentioned the split against Boston when the first game was as dominant as it was for UND, a 7-2 win. Over Boston is nuts. This Boston team is very, very good. North Dakota is ranked 6th in the country right now, and I think every bit of 6th sounds about correct. Which I like to apologize to anybody watching this right now. Normally I have a lot more video and more fun stuff to show you during this. I just got back from the Fargo Dome, so we don't have any of that today, but you get to hear us and listen to us the entire time.
It's better to have that video in the show today.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's a little bit, not more important. Not more.
I'm going to go ahead and say more important.
No, Adam, don't sell yourself short. But and so UND playing every bit like the 6th ranked team in the country, and I think that's a fair ranking right now. This series against Cornell that they have coming up, it's a ranked series, both in the top 10, but it's weird in the sense of where Cornell's at in the year right now.
Yeah.
UND is 5 games into the regular season, and they had an exhibition game. Cornell hasn't played once. So Cornell's holding on to that 9th ranking basically from the preseason. And so it's kind of a mystery right now.
Yeah.
And
are they better? Are they maybe a little rusty? Even?
Exactly. And I think that rust factor is going to be big too with UND. Say what you will about how tough that has been already in this non-conference part of the season, but they have their skates under them. They know what to look for on the ice there, and they know what lines are starting to work together right now. And so I think that makes a ton of difference. And so we'll see how that shakes out. But and that's such a fun part about college sports. It's not just hockey, but sometimes in football, you'll get to week 3 and it's like, oh, that team hasn't played a game yet. or they played in FCS school week 0 and they've been off ever since. So it's fun. And basketball, it's impossible to keep track of who's who's played in how many games and what tournaments or whatever. That's all over the place too. I love college sports.
It's adds an element of chaos that you don't get in pro sports.
Right.
And basketball in particular, you can have a team just get hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And with that's a game where you get somebody who all of a sudden they're making a bunch of threes and everything goes out the window, and the better team doesn't always win. That's why you need a 7-game series for those.
Right. That's why perfect brackets don't happen either, because you never know who's going to start shooting hot or whatever.
Yeah.
But, no, UND, very exciting, a fun time of the year right now. We have basically every sport.
It's like a sports equinox right now.
Sports equinox. I like it. We're just missing baseball now, because baseball's over. But I'm okay with waiting for baseball.
I didn't watch a single Major League Baseball game all year.
That's impressive. I covered the Twins.
I did go to a Twins game. I did go to one Twins game.
That's more. I think that's more of a commitment than watching games on TV.
I went for work.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I got invited to go for work. That was a super good time. Other than that, it was all Cougars and Red Hawks.
There you go. Oh yeah, I forgot your big Kane County Cougars allegiance there.
Champions.
They are. Wow, yeah, they won the Grey Cup.
They
Or,
did.
not the Grey Cup. That's Canadian football. They run the Wolf Cup. Good Lord. I'm
Same
frazzled.
thing.
I'm running around all over the place today. But I guess we could talk a little bit about what I was doing before.
Yeah,
I
let's get into
talk
it.
a little bit more about championship season, which we're in, and then of course we'll talk about North Dakota State and football and what they have next, and UND football and what they have next.
Yeah.
But we just got back from the Section 6 9-man championship game at the Fargo Dome. One of my favorite events of the year, the section championships for Minnesota at the Fargo Dome. It's fun. The different crowds that come in from wherever in Minnesota, the different sections that we have in our viewing area. Because our viewing area is so vast and it covers such a wide array of teams. We had Fertile Beltrami against Foston just now. Fertile Beltrami was leading, but I don't have the score off the top of my head right now. But we're going to have highlights from that tonight at 10. And then there's a couple more section championship games again today, which Eric Moon is going to right now. And then we got 4 more on the docket tomorrow. So we're loaded up. And then the playoffs start for Class 3A and 2A football tomorrow for North Dakota. Cheyenne, the number 1 seed in the East for 3A. Kindred, the number 1 seed in Class A, Class AA.
This is my chance to make it Halloweenish.
Class AA is Red River. Class A is Kindred. Go on with your Halloween.
So who are the scariest teams?
I'm going to give you one for each level.
Okay.
And this is all my opinion, of course. And of course, I have kind of an Eastern Dakota bias because I live here.
And those, teams do well.
The teams have done well in the past few years.
Well.
I guess Class A, obviously Kindred. Kindred's an absolute wagon right now, and they still are.
Yeah.
And so
when have they last lost? Was it 2023?
Yeah, something to that effect. They haven't lost a regular season game in a handful of years.
Was it like Central Cast, literally 2023?
That might have been a playoff game.
Yeah, because Central Cast won that year.
Yeah, they
right?
went to state that year.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know when the last time they lost a regular season game. But
it's been a minute.
But they haven't lost obviously that's the only playoff loss they've had in a while. So
yeah.
the state run's continuing for Kindred. I think they're just the weapons that they have, and even if Jake Starcevic is out of it, which he wasn't playing last time we were out there, the weapons that they have outside and up front. I'm a big Brooks Bacco fan.
How can you not be?
And so he made an insane catch last time we were out there too, which he's wont to do from time to time. But
yeah, the kid's got unreal bounce.
So Kindred is where I'm going for Class A. Class AA, Red River's very good. They have been all year. They're both undefeated, if you notice a theme in my picks right now. But no, Red River's very good. I do like Horace a lot right now. Horace has only lost twice, once to Red River in overtime, and then another one to Jamestown, who they play in the first round of the playoffs. So I think Red River is the team to beat in this AA tournament. I like Horace a lot.
Okay.
Horace has a lot of playmakers as well, and they just play really well together. And then 3A, I do think it runs through Minot again. So that I'll give Western Dakota a little bit of that one. I think Minot is still the team to beat at the 3A level. Cheyenne put it together really, really well towards the later part of the year. Davies has been solid all year around too, so we'll see what Davies is able to do. Davies has really shifted to the wing T style ball control offense, which it definitely limits mistake and creates mismatches, and they've been taking full advantage of that. We'll see how that goes up against the playoffs. Cheyenne kind of learned how to crack that. And
interesting.
Because Cheyenne's the only team that's beaten them this year.
Okay.
That's why Cheyenne's the top seed in the East. So we'll see what happens when it comes to state tournament time, but those are the teams I like. And again, I'm not doing any crazy hot takes. I'm going with the undefeated teams in Class A and AA.
Well, they're undefeated for a reason.
And Red River, Pierce Parks, I think, is just an incredible athlete in every sport he plays.
I would agree.
But he's an amazing quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see where he goes from here. But I think quarterback play is such a big difference maker at the high school level. If you run like an offense that doesn't rely a lot on mismatches and ball control, like say a wing T, Red River spreads it out where the quarterback is very, very important. And plus they have some other good playmakers in there as well. So I would like to see Red River make a run this year. Still like Horace a lot, and then I think Minot is going to be a tough cookie to crack at the 3A level. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. I love playoff football more than basically anything else on this earth that I'm not married to or the father of. I like my wife and kid a little bit more than playoff football.
That's
Everything
amazing.
else, though,
Okay.
put it aside. Playoff football is where it's at.
Absolutely.
That's how you know I'm a committed sports guy, right?
Speaking of playoff football, you were talking about some very interesting FCS stuff.
Yeah. We have we got our first and only playoff rankings from the FCS selection committee, and these are good because we get the media polls every week.
Right.
But the playoff selection committee, these are the people who are deciding what the seeds are going to be. These are the people who really decide who the top ranking teams are. So it wasn't very different from the media rankings, but no, it would be.
I'll give that to you.
Yeah, here, tell you what, I'll find it. Don't you worry. We'll do this one. But yeah, it's not very different than the media poll. There's only one real difference that I could think of, and I'll point it out. But North Dakota State obviously leading the way. No FCS losses this year. Only loss was to Colorado week 1. Beat the top team in the country at the time, South Dakota State. So you can't really put anyone else at 1. Montana State at 2.
That's interesting.
They have quite the case. Montana State's undefeated. They might have the best rushing attack in college football at any level. Well, never mind. Ashton Genty is currently playing for Boise State. So Montana State definitely has the best rushing attack at the FCS level. Tommy Malotte's still there. Mm-hmm. They're not running him headlong into linebackers as much this year, so he's not too banged up this time. But if I was Montana State, this ranking is eye-opening because I feel like if there was a spot where Montana State grabs the top seed, it would come from this selection committee. I think the media poll and the coaches poll would both have North Dakota State up there. But Montana State they certainly have a case right now. 8-0 overall, a very solid, with a win over an FBS school. They beat New Mexico at the start of the season. So, and then the other one that's the exact same as the media poll is South Dakota State. They're at 3rd. Now, where it differs, the playoff committee has South Dakota ranked 4th. Well, South Dakota just had an overtime loss to South Dakota State. That's their only loss of the year so far. One of the best defenses in the country. I think they have the top scoring defense in the country. So South Dakota, very, very solid this year. The Yotes are very good. In the media poll, UC Davis is 4, but in the FCS selection committee ranking, UC Davis is 5. So, and then, yeah, from there it's Southeast Missouri State, then Idaho, Mercer, Incarnate Word, and then Montana sitting at 10, which is interesting. Montana with a couple of losses this year, one to UND and one to Weber State. So, this is the only insight that we're going to get into where the selection committee stands too. The only other release that we'll get from them is when they're releasing the actual seeds, and remember the first 4 get that first round, or the first 8 I should say, get that first round bye, so that's huge. They're seeding teams I think 1 through 16 this year for the first time ever. So there's a lot more on the line as these rankings come out. So it's important to kind of see where the teams are at right now. And then I saw you looking at where North Dakota was at.
Yeah, because they fell off quite a bit.
The overtime loss to Youngstown hurts a lot.
Yeah.
They dropped down to 15. They were
From
previously 7.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, they weren't. UND has kind of put themselves into quite the pickle this year, and we'll talk about. Let's talk really quickly about both FCS teams and where they are going this weekend. North Dakota State staying home, looking to beat a Northern Iowa team. Northern Iowa coming in with a 2-7 record, not great for their standards, of course, but they're always a solid team, and when they have Coach Farley there, they're going to command that respect no matter what their record is coming into it. So the big thing that I saw when I was looking over the game notes for Northern Iowa is they averaged 16 points a game, which is not great. So we'll see what
good.
Not great, no. So we'll see what happens at the Fargo Dome this weekend, but it should be another Bison win, but this is the last one, but this is the last game before the bye week as well. So they really can't overlook these guys to try to get some rest. And so they're gonna try to end this long stretch of the year before the bye week on a high note here against Northern Iowa. UND hitting the road again, and if we could pull up UND's schedule, I would actually appreciate that quite a bit because I know it, but I want to make sure I'm right here because they lost on the road again. They haven't won a road game yet this year. They're 0-3. In road games. They're undefeated at home, which is nice, but this stretch of the season is tough. So they go to Indiana State. That should be a win.
Larry Bird's not walking through that tunnel anytime soon.
He's not. No. It'd be weird if he did. And so they should get their road win this weekend, but you never know with this team on the road right now. UND just seems to play so differently in these road games. Then they get both South Dakota schools in the Alara Center the 2 weeks after that. So they host South Dakota State and South Dakota. they're probably going to have to win one of those just to get a playoff spot.
And that's crazy.
Yeah. So
because I mean, like they were number 7 last week, and now they're a team kind of fighting for their playoff lives just by way of a brutal last 3 weeks. Really, they should go beat Indiana State, but then you got South Dakota State, South Dakota, and Illinois State's a pretty dangerous team too.
And the big wild card there with that Illinois State game to close out the year is that it's in Normal.
Yeah.
In UND, and we talked to Coach Schweigert about it. There really doesn't seem to be a particular thing that they have for why things seem to be so different on the road. No one seems to know the answer for what it is, but they just have to start getting more comfortable out there.
Yeah.
And hopefully these 2 weeks in a row, one in Youngstown, Ohio, and the other one at Terre Haute, Indiana, kind of get you like more comfortable on the road, because they're going to need that. And that Youngstown State loss is going to that might come back to bite them in a big way, especially if both South Dakota schools continue their great seasons in the Alara Center. But it's also in the Alara Center, so you don't know what's going to happen.
You
in
never
there
know
either.
what's going to happen. But I mean, yeah, South Dakota, it's been just building on the previous year's momentum.
Yeah.
Getting a little better every year, and I'm very interested to see what happens with that South Dakota State game, because as good as that team is, and I thought we saw every ounce of how good each team was when NDSU and SDSU played.
Yeah, that felt like a championship game.
It did. But this team, just winning in overtime against South Dakota, it's like shows that they're beatable.
Right.
They have lost to an FCS team this year.
That is also like a very tough stretch of the year for South Dakota State. And like, of course, I haven't given them like much like on air kudos for that, because we just don't cover them. But to go in the Fargo Dome and then immediately have to host South Dakota right after that, that is tough.
Yeah.
And so South Dakota State is still very impressive. And North Dakota they're kind of playing for their lives right now. I feel like they have to win 3 out of these next 4 games just to lock down a playoff spot. And there's some tough matchups on here. So we'll see how that shakes out. But you never know how many spots in the playoff the Valley's going to get. And the Missouri Valley is pretty top heavy this year. So it might end up being NDSU, SDSU, USD, and North Dakota. It all kind of depends on what Missouri State does, stuff like that. So the Valley still is it's where championships run through right now, and it has been that way for about over a decade. So,
well, I realize we're getting a little lower on time.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Let's get to our NFL picks here.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna start at the top. We got tonight. My cousin Jeff, he told me that Houston doesn't win on the road.
Oh.
So I said, okay. So I'm taking the Jets tonight.
Okay, I'm going with Houston just because they're a better team, but I like the don't win on the road thing. That makes sense.
Jeff knows what he's talking about.
I trust Jeff, don't get me wrong, but I already wrote down Houston. I can't change my vote.
There you go. The Falcons are a better team than the Cowboys, and that was really all it came down to.
Correct.
Also, Russ Thomas is in Atlanta right now.
It's for you, Russ.
Russ, crazy good energy. I feel like he takes that energy with him to Atlanta, and that's just going to make the Falcons even more dangerous because Russ is in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, no, that'll do it. Okay, I'm going for you.
The Buffalo Bills hosting the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins aren't that good. My dad's name is Bill. The Shalafoos are winner. Give me the Bills.
I'm also going with the Bills, not for that reason.
Not for that reason. The Cincinnati Bengals, they got to beat the Raiders.
I also went with the Bengals over the Raiders. I agree.
This one was really hard. The Browns, I don't know what to make of them because I feel like they've always been a team that could just turn it on.
Yeah.
They were so good last year. They're starting to get a little healthier. They had a huge win last week with Jameis Winston.
It was big with Jameis. And
Nick Chubb's back and starting to get the ball more, starting to ramp up.
My favorite thing about the Browns game last week was it had the most Jameis Winston moment I've ever seen, which was throwing a ball perfectly into the safety's hands for Baltimore that he just happened to drop, and then the very next play throwing a game-winning
touchdown. Was that
touchdown.
Eddie Jackson by chance?
It might have been.
Former Bear?
But, yeah, no.
Because I just saw he was getting clowned on Twitter, so I assume it was Eddie Jackson.
I think it was. I went with the Chargers this week. I think this is kind of a come-down week for Cleveland after a big emotional performance this season.
I went with the Browns because of what happened last year with Joe Flacco. The Browns all of a sudden turned it on with Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, instead of Flacco, this time it's Jameis Winston, who I think is better than Joe Flacco.
Yes, I agree.
And I think having Chubb back, I think it's going to be an ugly, like 17-15 Browns in a very gross game. Take care of business there. I took the Patriots over the Titans. I'm not confident at all. Both these teams are really bad.
Yeah, I went with Tennessee. No real reason behind it.
They're at home.
I always try to pick against the Patriots when I can. You understand?
Oh, sure. Now, the Washington Commanders going in against, it does hurt. People have asked me, how are you feeling? Bad.
Not great?
Not great. The Commanders coming off that very lucky, very unfortunate win against the Chicago Bears. But they're going to take care of business against a pretty bad Giants team, I think.
I also went with Washington in this one. No real reason behind it.
Now, this is an interesting one. Deontay Johnson just got traded away from the Panthers. They're hosting the Saints. Saints, I feel like it was starting to look like it was going to be a fun year for them, and then just everybody got hurt.
The first two games were so great, but everyone on the roster is hurt. That being said, Carolina's still a terrible team, so I went with New Orleans.
I went with the Panthers. Don't feel good about it. The Baltimore Ravens against the much better than expected Broncos team. I mean, the Ravens are still going to win, but the Broncos aren't that bad.
The Broncos are not that bad. That defense is
really good.
Very, very solid. So that's going to carry them quite a long ways.
All right. The Philadelphia Eagles are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Fun Doug Peterson game.
Oh, man, I didn't think about a Doug Peterson revenge game. I already picked Philadelphia. Dang it. Oh, well.
Well, they're going to win.
I know they're going to win, but like, what if they don't? Then I'm going to look like a fool. Anyway.
Matt Eberflus he has a really bad road record.
Oh.
And I still think the Bears are going to win, but I think I've picked them to win every single week.
I also went with the Bears, but I think I've picked against Arizona every week.
Okay. Arizona's a feisty team.
They are. They're frisky and fun.
Yeah, the Bears defense is going to have their hands full, so we'll see how that one goes. A lot of toss-ups this week. The game of the week, especially if you're a Vikings fan or a Bears fan or a Packers fan or a Lions fan.
If you like the NFC North, this is the game for you.
Anyone... It's unfortunate that it's at the same time as the Bears game, but Detroit visiting Green Bay.
I went with Detroit.
So did I.
Okay, cool.
I think they're the better team. Also, I just don't know how healthy Love is.
No, I agree. And yeah, that situation last week was bizarre with Jordan Love. I went with Detroit. Detroit is still a wagon this year. They're very solid.
The LA Rams visiting the Seattle Seahawks.
This could have been a coin flip for me, but I went with the Rams. It landed on tails, so Rams.
I went with the Rams too. I think they're healthy, and I think they're actually good when they're healthy.
Is that a high confidence pick or low?
It's 1 through 16. Or 1 through 15, excuse me.
Like 1 being the lowest?
It's like 15 being the highest. My highest pick was the Eagles.
Okay. I thought that you had a very confident pick for the Rams over Seattle. I was like, interesting.
No, I'm like,
anyway,
pretty low confidence.
Okay.
The Minnesota Vikings, I do think, beat the Colts, but I just think that the Colts are a lot better with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, and we get Joe Flacco versus Sam Darnold on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
This game got flexed up to this time slot, which I think is very fun, a good indicator of where the Vikings are at right now, too. I think Minnesota gets things back on track this week.
I think so.
Mostly because the Colts aren't that good of a team. The Joe Flacco magic is kind of real, but I went with the Vikings.
You look at, for Monday Night Football, should be a fun game. Both teams dealing with just a ton of injuries to their receiving core. One team hasn't lost yet, and that's the Chiefs.
The Chiefs, because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes on a Monday night, I'd be crazy to pick against him.
I also went with Kansas City. I'm not sure how many different ones we had. And we might have all been the same, though.
Oh, no, we got a few. A few. You had Chargers.
Oh, that's true.
I had Patriots there with Carolina.
Okay, we're not the same.
Justin Betty, shout out to Justin. He's gotten 69% right to lead everybody so far through the first 8 weeks. So he is this week's champion. Now, if we're talking about just plain old-fashioned who got the most picks right last week, it was me.
Oh, good job, Adam.
So I finally got one. Thank you.
Proud of you, buddy.
Yeah, this week could be yours.
I consistently get 10 out of 16. That's my sweet spot.
You're being modest. It's been 16 out of 16 every week.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, well,
we record this.
Trying to gas you
We
up.
record this.
They know. They can go back and watch.
They can go back and look and